Every path we walk holds secrets. Some are in plain sight, some are waiting to be discovered. What if, on an ordinary day, you stumbled upon something extraordinary? An unknown place, shrouded in mystery and power. Not long ago, I found such a place. Deep in the woods behind my house, an ancient well called to me. And when I touched it, everything changed. It was some kind of portal, some kind of looking glass into Aldarian. A world of light and shadow, of choices and consequences. A world that feels closer to our own than you might think. Through that well, I see it all happening now, today, as we speak. These are their stories, their destinies, and I am here to share them with you. So come with me, my friends. Join me in this journey beyond the well. The Firewalker, Episode 2, The Trial of Ash and Ice. The winds of the volcanic highlands howled like restless spirits, carrying with them the sting of ash and the tang of sulfur. The jagged peaks ahead were shrouded in a haze of smoke, and the ground beneath Liyah's feet shifted with loose gravel and the cracked earth. Soluna in her pouch pulsed faintly, her warmth a small comfort against the oppressive cold of the highland winds. Liyah paused on a narrow ridge, scanning the horizon. Her breath misted in the frigid air as she pulled her cloak tighter. The path before her was treacherous, but she pressed on, her resolve firm. The village depended on her. Liyah traveled all that day before coming to the foot of an enormous volcano. She felt Soluna urge her to unpack and prepare for the next day, so that night her fire kept her warm and she used but little of the food rations that she had packed. Sleep came quickly and deep for Liyah. The following day, she began the long, steep hike up the side of the mountain. Around mid-sun, she crested the top and began down the back side. Liyah first sensed something was off with Soluna. Then, a few steps later, she heard a faint sound coming through the ashen air. It was not the wind, nor was it the distant rumble of the volcano. It was a groan, low and filled with pain. She stopped, her heart quickening, and strained to locate the source. Beneath a cluster of jagged rocks, she saw a man, his figure half buried in the ash and debris. His tunic was torn, and a deep gash marred his shoulder. He looked up at her with wary eyes, his face streaked with soot. "Help!" he croaked, his voice very weak. Liyah hesitated. Her first impulse was that this man belonged to the bandits that had murdered her parents. She felt a faint impression from Soluna to look closer. The man bore the markings of a distant mountain clan, the Skaldran, a neutral tribe who lived deep within the mountains of the scorched abyss. Although they rarely interacted with the Naulu, she had been told of their aggressive nature and great abilities as fighters for the Zashanez nation. Her mind told her to stay away, but she felt a certain confidence from the stone around her neck. She reached up and wrapped her hands around Soluna. His injuries were severe, a severe gash in his side and shoulder. Her mind ran to her mother. She knew her mother would never let someone suffer so. Her shaman instincts took over. She knelt down beside the man, pulling her water skin from the pack. "Drink," she urged, tilting it to his lips. The man drank greedily, and then winced at the movement straining his wound. "Who did this to you?" she asked, dabbing at the gash with a strip of cloth. "Raiders," he managed, his voice tight with pain. "The Brindar." Liyah's stomach churned at this name. Those were the same raiders who had stolen the life stone and taken the lives of her parents. Her grip tightened on the cloth. "I'm Liyah," she said after a moment. "I am from the Naulu. I can try to help you, but you'll need to trust me." The man's gaze softened slightly. "Jarek," he muttered, his strength insufficient to say more. Liyah's hands worked quickly, preparing a poultice. As she chanted the blessing into the salve, she felt an unusual energy flow from inside. She recognized Soluna singing alongside her. The warrior's eyes had now closed, but he groaned softly as she pressed the balm into his wound. The next morning, Jarek opened his eyes and was shocked at the ability to sit up. I should be dead. He looked over at the little girl sitting across the fire from him. You saved me. She simply nodded. What are you doing out here? These are dangerous lands. Liyah paused, considering for a moment the implications and the risks. Then, all at once, she decided and told Jarek all that had happened. When she had finished, he nodded slowly, as if considering. I am not a man of belief in the gods. All they have ever done is taken from me. A dark shadow crossed his face, and he looked away. But, he continued, you are different, and I owe you. And Jarek, son of Tarek, will see you safely escorted, at least until I pay this life debt. The next day they rose early, broke camp, and began the hike deeper into the savage mountains. As they journeyed down a narrow, winding canyon, the air fell silent, and a tension creeped up Liyah's neck. Soluna pulsed a warning, and Liyah stopped abruptly. What is it? Asked Jarek, his hand instinctively moving to his blade. Something, it isn't right, Liyah whispered, clutching the stone in her pocket. Moments later, the attack came. 3 raiders, clad in the Brindar's jagged armor, emerged from the rocks with weapons drawn. Jarek moved swiftly, his sword a blur as he cut down the first attacker. The second lunged for Liyah, but she ducked and scooped some ash and spun away, flinging it into her attacker's eyes. Jarek was on him in an instant and thrust his sword between the armor and the padding on the man's side. Then he went silent. The third raider faltered, realizing his disadvantage. Jarek slapped the man's short sword into the ground and grabbed him by the collar, lifting him off the ground and bringing his face to his. Where is the stone? He growled. The raider looked at him in slight confusion, then glanced at the small Naulu girl behind him. Realization came into his eyes and he sneered, but winced as Jarek pressed his blade to the man's throat. The lake, he stammered and motioned towards the mountain pass behind them. 1 day's journey. Then he laughed and spat. Guarded by the beast, you'll never survive. Jarek pressed his dagger to the bandit's flesh, but Liyah cried out, Don't! No! Stop! Jarek looked back. He deserves to die, and I can't have him running off to warn his buddies. Liyah looked around frantically. I can't see him killed. Not like this. It's just not right. Right has nothing to do with it, little one. This is survival. Suddenly an idea popped into her mind. Hold on, listen. Have him take off his boots. Both of them. The men jerked their heads around at her. No, cried the man. I can't walk on the ash. It'll torch me. This is torture. Jarek had a grim but satisfied smile. I think that'll be just fine by me. Now, put him on this rock here. It's surrounded by ash. He won't be able to leave it. Leastways, not without severe burns. What am I supposed to do? Just sit here and die? Shut it, growled Jarek. No. Once we get the stone, we'll circle back here on our way home. And if you don't live, there's no way you'll make it to that stone. Jarek turned on him. Then I guess you'll have the same fate as us. As they walked away, Jarek spoke. Why do you care so much about him? He tried to kill us. Liyah nodded. Skyfather and Mother Earth honor all life. Even if there's a small chance for him to change, I must honor that. Jarek snorted. I'd say there's no chance. He's a bandit, a sulking piece of scum that'd sooner slit your throat than look at you. The only kindness he deserves is a swift death. Liyah frowned. Maybe. I can't say. But neither can you. Do you really believe there is no chance in redemption? We all make mistakes, mighty Skaldrin. Can you really say that you've never needed a second chance? Her eyes bored into him. He huffed initially and then took a step back, completely caught off guard by the power of this small girl. His mind flashed back to times past, and the memory staggered him. He shook his head. I left faith in gods many years ago. He turned and without another word walked on, his demeanor clearly indicating that this conversation was over. Well, they arrived at the edge of the lava lake as the sun dipped low in the sky. The molten surface glowed ominously, and at its center lay an island of blackened rock. Perched atop it, even from this distance they could see, was the lifestone, its soft glow unmistakable. However, a massive fire drake prowled the island. Its scales shined and shimmered like molten metal. Liyah's breath caught. How are we supposed to get past that? Jarek's hand went to his blade instinctively. Very carefully. The creature looked like a massive lizard. It looked up when he saw the two of them in the distance. Instantly it began running left and right, scurrying up and down the small island. By the gods, look how fast he moves, said Jarek as he marveled at the incredible speed of the beast. As he spoke, the giant lizard looked up at them and hissed. Liyah looked around and said, Night is upon us. We need to set up camp. Jarek looked at the island, then back at Liyah. I don't think we'll get much sleep knowing that thing is watching us. Have faith, my friend. We'll be fine. Right. Not worry. There's the ash, there's a drake, there's the Brendar. We'll be just fine. You are a naive little girl. He shook his head and began to get the bedrolls out. You're braver than most, but if you're going to face that, you'll need more than bravery. You'll need to be smart. They're ruthless and they don't fight fair. I'll do what I have to, said Liyah firmly, for my people. Jarek studied her for a moment before reclining against the rocks. Well, then I'll do what I can to help you get out of there alive. The fire crackled, and for a moment the ash cloud cleared, and the stars appeared overhead. Liyah felt a flicker of hope. The trials of the highlands were far from over, but for the first time, she didn't feel entirely alone. Thank you for joining me today as we look beyond the well. What lies ahead is not just a tale, it's a journey, one that we will take together. If you're ready to step further into Aldarian, subscribe and follow Beyond the Well wherever you listen to podcasts. For even more information, visit beyondthewell.net for transcripts, notes, character descriptions, maps, and much more. And remember, sometimes the path we walk reveals more than we ever imagined. So, keep seeking, keep dreaming, and keep telling your story. Bye.